Hi, Janice.
Hi Laura, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. A little bit
Good.
jet lagged, but okay.
Well, listen, huge congratulations on your BAFTA Cymru nominations for Chuck Chuck Baby. Three no
Wow, it's
less,
crazy.
I think.
Crazy. It's really crazy. What an incredible journey and what a great tribute to cast and crew. And for me, it's kind of like a tribute to the women portrayed in the film. So I'm really happy. So thank you everyone who nominated us. And the nominations itself is just brilliant for us. It's amazing.
Awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about the film and perhaps what inspired you to tell this particular story?
I mean, Chuck Chuck Baby is a story about love, really, and it's a celebration of women, but it platforms female love in all its forms, and it was really important for me to make this kind of film because I come from these women. I was brought up in a very working class industrial area of North Wales by some surrounded by incredible working class women who I always felt their resilience was just incredible, dealt with mainly with humour, um, and this incredible strength. And women, I always feel like my mother, who were just so incredibly brilliant and bright, but due to the social circumstances, they never really got what they should have got and what they deserved. So for me, it was really about celebrating the whole working class brilliance thing, and specifically with the women.
And the portrayal of the working class life seems really important to you as a story you really wanted to put forward. And love and personal connection come across as key themes as well. So, how did
Yeah,
you approach telling?
I mean, I don't write anything that I kind of I'm not really connected to. I'm not one of those writers who can just write anything. It has to come from a very deep place for me. Um, I think working class life. It's as I was growing up. I'm the baby of five. There were seven of us shoved into a little council house, but I always remember the love, and and my mum forever in a blue overall, and her love of musicals. So I've always had this kind of thing, which I do. I love social realism, and I love musicals. And what I do with my work is I mix the two together. And I think that really kind of, for me, um, kind of, it feels the right working class for me. It feels, the hardship are full of song and love, and it's yeah, it's different. We shot this film in 26 days, and we um,
Wow.
we put everything into it. And I think working class films, there's a lot of them. How you approach them is down to you as a director and a writer. For me, it's specifically with the music and the social realism mixed together.
So yeah, music was something I was going to ask you about. It's really integral to the film. So talk to us a bit about how you chose some of the music and your use of music in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I use music as part of the narrative. It's there to use kind of to inform the audience of the character's backstory. And it starts right at the beginning of script writing. So it's a long process, because it's not just there to kind of just fill something, it's there to express an emotion in the same way we use music ourselves. Whether we're grieving or we're falling in love, there's a certain piece of music that will ignite something in us. So I use music in a very personal way. So, right from the beginning, it's part of the script. I'm also very aware of the cost of music, so I don't go for anything enormous, but it has to feel right, and it has to tell something about the journey and about the characters. But for me, it's always about coming from the heart. So even with the actors, I always say, I don't want you to sing. I want you, it's about feeling and it's about showing your heart. And I think we all do that personally with music when something, touches us very deeply. It's the heart that we kind of we platform. And for me, that's why I think Chuck Chuck Baby is a musical, which it is a musical, works in that kind of way because it's not a big burst of song. It's a very slow, gentle kind of walk into someone's emotions and to their hearts. And I think by doing that, we bring the audience in instead of just throwing them out. So,
Yeah.
but massively important, and always the music choices. it's a long process.
And what about casting then for a musical, as it were? How did you approach that?
I mean, like, I think like anything else, for me, it's like, what actor? I loved Louise Breal. I saw her in a piece of theatre, and I love what she offers. She really is a very honest, beautiful performer she does give you her heart. And from that moment, bringing in other people, working with Becca Wright, brilliant casting director, and really from there, it's about forming the chemistry. And Belle and Lou immediately had a chemistry. The three girls had an enormous chemistry together. And also, I think the moment right, this is where I'm staying, is for me about taking them. They all came to Flint. They all felt the environment of what we were where we were shooting. And I think that all those things really help with the camaraderie of what's in the film and what the actors, how they work together as well. But once also, we've got those set in stone and thinking of the right people, for me, it was always about actors who are very familiar with that background. They understand it. There's no point of an actor coming in who doesn't completely understand that background at all. And all of them, were picked for that, and they just had this incredible chemistry. And then we go through a little process where we all read together, and then we do it individually. And we, as a writer, you start shaping certain things for certain actors. But the moment I met Louise, I knew it was Helen.
And what about the backdrop to this film? So a poultry factory is quite unique. Did you know it always had to be that? Was that also instinctive?
Yeah, I mean, look, I come from a place where, my town was built for certain mills around, a long time ago, and but I worked in a chicken factory straight from school with my sisters, and I will confess I did not last very long. I just couldn't cope. But I loved the atmosphere in that chicken factory, and I loved it was a really independent feel, and it was full of song. People sang all day, and you were in this environment full of women, and it was gross and awful. And my sister, not being the kindest of people in a chicken factory, was but it was just, for me, aesthetically, this kind of beauty and brutality put together. The brutality of this job, the beauty of the camaraderie. So it was definitely, I wanted to shoot in a chicken factory. And the end of the film, for anybody who's seen the end of the film, when I focus on those portraits of those incredible faces of those beautiful women, those were the girls I was at the chicken factory with over, many years ago. They were the first girls I worked with at the chicken factory, who stayed there a lot longer than me.
And stayed with you, obviously. I guess that sense of camaraderie really comes across.
You remember Helen from home, Joe? She was at school with us.
It's been 20 odd years. It's funny. What is? This is the first time we've ever talked.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your collaboration and partnership with Ffilm Cymru. So what role did they play in the development of the film?
Oh, right from the beginning, as soon as we went to them with the script, they were right behind us. I mean, Kimberly, unbelievable, Kelly as Kimberly Warner, just unbelievable. And look, I know in this world, it's not easy when, the work I write, people are a bit like, oh, what is this? And it takes brave and bold curators to kind of jump on board and say, this is a different voice. This is something very different and original. And I'm so grateful for Ffilm Cymru, specifically to Kimberly and Pauline when she was there, because they did come on board instantly. And with that development, it allowed us to kind of work our way through the script, and also, from that moment, helped us with, clearing the music, which is vital, for us to keep moving forward, because you don't want to get to shooting and somebody says, oh, you can't use that track. It's a nightmare, because, so enormous support. And, Ffilm Cymru, you know, we're an incredible little nation of talent, and I think they get behind people brilliantly. And for me personally, from the moment I handed the script over, they were behind us and very supportive.
So you obviously think that it's quite important for national film bodies to support, you know, the local talent, the local stories.
Yeah, and not just about the, you know, it's important to kind of, Wales is one of those nations. You know, my dad is originally from the Gower. My mum was a Flintshire girl. There's a big, you know, South Wales, North Wales. You know, I have a great love aesthetically for the look of where I come from, because it is a mixture of that industrial and rugged landscape. And we are one of those little Welsh places that sits very much on the border of England. So we kind of sound much more Scouse and Mancunian, but, you know, we still have very big dragons in our hearts. But it's, you know, for me, it's showcasing all of Wales. It's showcasing the difference that we have, the differences we have in all those areas, but so much talent. And, you know, these national bodies are in desperate need to kind of just bring the talent up. And I think Wales do that brilliantly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I think is this your first feature film?
First official feature film, yes. I've done a feature experimental with St Martin's, but this is my first debut feature. I took quite a few years off. I think, like most kind of us do, I lost 3 brilliant women in my life in a very short period of time, and I suppose needed to mend my heart and understand, you know, why filmmaking is so important, and, you know, what did I want to say with it. And I'm a great believer, if you don't have anything to say with something, don't say it. You've got to have something to say. And I think my you know, for me, that journey through my heartbreak was really brilliant for me as an artist as well. You know, it gave me time to really think about what I wanted, what was important for me. And, you know, the story of women is incredibly important for me to kind of get across, because I really believe, you know, we just don't see these women on screen enough, and their stories. And, you know, we need to hear their stories because they're brilliant and they have such a unique voice.
So what would you say was the biggest thing, or the one thing that you learn over the course of making your first feature film that maybe you'd want to share with other filmmakers, or, you know, the one lesson, maybe it's around navigating the film industry, not sure, what would it be, and you know, what do you wish you knew at the beginning?
Well, I think I was old and wise, and I mean, the one really big thing I learned was that set food is really naughty and not good for your health, but, you know, avocados all round next time. But look, independent filmmaking is so difficult. You know, what money doesn't buy you is time, and time is very important for the creative process. For me, you know, it was about thinking on your feet, and, you know, of course, every day we had something thrown at us. COVID constantly, you know, weather. We're in North Wales, but, you know, the beauty of, you know, I go back to a very simple thing. How lucky am I to be standing on this floor surrounded by brilliant collaborators? How lucky am I in a world to be standing here doing something I love with all my heart? And for me, really, is about learning to enjoy it and embrace it. And, you know what you want to do as a director. The moment you walk on set, you should know what you want to do. You know, and that's, you know, for me, of course I did. But, you know, you've got to also enjoy the time and just take some time and just say, my God, look at this. This is a set. This is a great crew. These incredible cast, amazing production team. And we've all come a long way. And now is the time we make it enjoyable and we make beautiful art. And I think, you know, it's addictive being on set, and it's I don't know, what do you learn all the time? You just know that time is always against you, you know. But for me, it's just, I always remind myself of how lucky I am to be there and to be making a film, because there's so many great voices out there who don't get to do that.
And what are you going to use your voice for next? Am I allowed to ask what might be next?
I'm a very superstitious girl. My mother was terrible. I never talk about it. It's very beautiful. That's what I will say. And it involves those, you know, the same thing. It's realism and musical come together. It again is something personal, and it involves those incredible things that, you know, has a big stamp on us in life, love, politics, and death. And I think, you know, I will move forward with that. Again, shot in North Wales, but I feel this one is very special. So, but that's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you for that snapshot. Oh, well, it's been lovely to talk to you, Janis. Thank you.
You too, Laura. Really nice to talk to you.
Good luck at the BAFTAs.
Look, we've been nominated. It's extraordinary. And for me, it's just like, even going there as a nominee is just going to be brilliant. So, you know, let's see, for all the people who put so much hard work into this film, I'm incredibly grateful. But thank you for the lovely conversation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We can be so much more than what they think we are.